6:14 in the morning. A kitchen table. A phone lights up with a number Diane has been building toward for 3 years and a few months, and the number is $31,200. That is not a fortune. Nobody is buying a boat with $31,000. But here's what that number actually is, and why it quietly rearranged her entire life. It is exactly 1 year. 12 full months of rent, groceries, insurance, gas, the electric bill, the dog's food, the co-pays, all of it, already covered, sitting in one account before the year has even started. Diane earns $50,000 a year. Not 60, not 80, 50, before taxes, in a job that has never once handed her a bonus. 2 floors up, in the same apartment building, on the same side of the same city, a guy named Paul earns $95,000, nearly double what she makes. And if Paul lost his job this afternoon, walked out with a box under his arm at lunch, he has enough cash in the bank to cover about 11 days. Not 11 months. 11 days. Same building. Same rising cost of eggs. One of them has a year of oxygen. The other is 11 days from panic. And I want to sit inside that gap with you, because that gap is the whole point, and it has almost nothing to do with the size of anybody's paycheck. Now, you have probably already started explaining it away. You are picturing Diane as single with no kids, or you have decided she has some paid-off house, some rich uncle, some detail that makes her a special case and lets you off the hook. Hold on. Stay with me, because that reflex, that quiet little, yeah, but she probably reflex, is the exact thing I want to take away from you in the next few minutes. This is not a story about a woman who earns enough to save. $50,000 a year is roughly what half of this country lives on. This is a story about a woman who earns what half the country earns, and who did the one thing the other half swears is flat out impossible on that income. And the reason it worked has honestly very little to do with her salary. So let me give you the name for what she actually built, because I want you to carry this one word out of this video and into your own bank account. The word is runway. Not riches, runway. Think about a plane for a second. It doesn't matter how powerful the engine is. It doesn't matter how expensive the jet is. No runway, no flight. The thing just sits there, heavy and useless. Money works exactly the same way, and almost nobody tells you this. Diane did not get rich. She is not rich. What she built was runway. 1 full year of paid-for life sitting underneath her, so that any single bad day, a layoff, a diagnosis, a transmission that dies on the interstate in February, cannot slam her into the ground. Paul has a bigger engine. Diane built a runway. Guess which one gets to take off? And here is my promise to you, the reason I want you to stay to the end. I am going to walk you through exactly how she did it. The real math, the actual moves, month by month, on a $50,000 salary. And I am going to do it in a way you could copy whether you make $40,000 or $140, because the people who pull this off are almost never the highest earners in the room. They are the ones who understood runway first. Give me the next few minutes and I will hand you the entire blueprint. And no, not one piece of it requires a raise. Let's start with the move that everything else hangs on, because Diane did something with her goal that most people never do. She refused to measure it in money. Ask an ordinary person how much they want in savings and they'll say something vague and round. I'd like to have, I don't know, 20 grand. 20 grand of what? 20 grand doing what? It's a number floating in space with no job. Diane did the opposite. She sat down one night with her actual bills and she added up 1 boring month of her real life. Rent, $950. Groceries, $400. Car, insurance, gas, about $350. Utilities and phone, $220. Health, the dog, the small stuff, another $300 or so. It came to roughly $2,000, $600 a month to simply be alive and keep the lights on. Then she multiplied by 12. $31,200. And she wrote that number on an index card and stuck it to the side of the refrigerator, and she stopped calling it savings. She called it 1 year, because that is what it was. It wasn't money. It was time. It was 12 months of not being afraid. Do that yourself, tonight if you can. Open your own statements, add up 1 honest month of just existing, and multiply by 12. That number, your number, is your runway. And I promise it is smaller and more reachable than the scary made-up figure you've been carrying around in your head. Watch what happens next, because this is where most plans quietly die, and hers didn't. Move 2. She paid herself first, and then she made it impossible to forget. This phrase, pay yourself first, gets thrown around so much it's gone numb, so let me make it real. Most people save whatever is left at the end of the month, and you already know how that story ends, because there is never anything left at the end of the month. The month is a hungry animal. It eats everything you feed it. So Diane flipped the order. The day her paycheck landed, before rent, before groceries, before a single other dollar moved, an automatic transfer pulled money out and dropped it into a separate account she pretended did not exist. Not a heroic amount. Around $430 every 2 weeks. That's it. But it was automatic. It happened first, and she never saw it sitting in her checking account long enough to spend it. $430, 26 times a year, is a little over $11,000 saved without a single act of willpower after the first click. Run that forward. In about 3 years, that quiet automatic transfer alone builds most of the runway. She did not budget harder every month. She made one decision, once, and then let the machine carry it. That is the secret nobody finds sexy enough to put on a poster. Discipline you have to summon every single day will fail you, because you are human and you get tired. Discipline you set up one time and automate never gets tired at all. Set the transfer for the morning after payday and go live your life. Now, meanwhile, 2 floors up, Paul. Because I told you this was a contrast and I meant it. Paul makes $95,000. On paper, Paul is winning by a mile. But Paul saves the way most high earners save, which is to say, with whatever survives the month. And nothing survives Paul's month, because Paul's life expanded to swallow every dollar the second the dollar arrived. Bigger apartment, because he could. Leased car with a payment that would make you wince, because he could. The good phone plan, the delivery apps, the 4 streaming services he forgot he had, the I earned it dinners on a Thursday. None of it insane on its own. All of it together, a leak in the hull he cannot see because the water level looks fine as long as he keeps bailing. This is the trap, and it has a name, too. When your income goes up and your spending quietly rises to meet it, dollar for dollar, you can earn twice as much as your neighbor and end up with less oxygen than she has. Paul is not a fool. Paul is not lazy. Paul is just running a life with no runway and a very loud engine. Read that back if you need to, because you might recognize somebody in it, and I am not going to ask whether that somebody is you. Move 3, and this is where Diane got a little ruthless in a way I actually admire. She hunted the silent money, the money that leaves without a sound. One Sunday, she did something almost nobody does. She printed, on paper, every single recurring charge hitting her cards, and she was not proud of what she found. A streaming service she'd watched twice in a year, a gym she'd stopped going to but kept paying $11 a month to feel guilty about, an app subscription that renewed at $90 a year for a thing she used once, a premium this, a plus that, little charges, each one small enough to ignore, all of them together bleeding her for close to $70 a month. $840 a year, gone, for things that gave her nothing. She killed almost all of it in one afternoon. And here is the part I want you to feel. She did not miss a single one. Not one. A month later, she could not even have named them for you. That is the tell. If you cancel something and you genuinely cannot remember it a month later, it was never buying you happiness. It was just buying itself. Go count yours. Right now, later tonight, pull up your statements and look for the small, quiet, recurring numbers, the ones with words like monthly and renew hiding behind them. I would bet real money you find at least $40 a month you are paying for something you would not miss. That's your runway, leaking out one silent charge at a time. I am not done yet, not even close, because saving the money is only half of it. Keeping yourself from wrecking it is the other half, and this next move is the one that separates the people who almost make it from the people who actually do. Move 4. She froze her lifestyle on purpose. Over those 3 years, Diane got 2 small raises, not big ones, a cost of living bump, a little step up. Most people, the day a raise hits, upgrade something within the week. Better car, nicer place, a treat yourself, you earned it. The raise evaporates before the ink is dry, and 6 months later they are living paycheck to paycheck at a higher salary, which is a genuinely strange kind of trap, because it feels like progress while it is quietly costing you ground. Diane did something almost unnatural. When the raise came, she left her life exactly where it was, and she pointed the entire raise straight into the runway account. She kept driving the same car, she kept the same apartment, her monthly spending did not move an inch, so every extra dollar the raise gave her went to buying more months of freedom instead of more stuff to insure and maintain, and eventually throw away. She let her income rise and refused to let her lifestyle chase it. That is the whole game. That single habit is the reason a $50,000 earner can lap a $95,000 earner, and it is available to you at any income, starting with your very next raise. Move 5 is smaller, but it mattered more than you'd think. She put the money somewhere boring and slightly annoying to reach. Not in her checking account where she'd see it and get ideas. Not in the stock market where a bad week could scare her into a bad decision right when she needed the cash. She put it in a plain high-yield savings account at a separate bank, no debit card attached, the kind of thing that takes a day or two to move money out of. Friction, on purpose. Because the small delay between I want it and I have it is exactly enough time for the impulse to pass. She made her runway a little hard to spend, and that little bit of hard is what kept it alive. And move 6, the last one, is the rule that turns a pile of money into an actual year of peace. She decided, in advance, in writing, what counted as an emergency, because a fund with no rules is just a slow-motion shopping account. A sale is not an emergency. A vacation is not an emergency. A wedding you've known about for 8 months is not an emergency. A lost job is. A medical bill is. A car you need to get to work, dead on the shoulder, is. She wrote the rules while she was calm, so that the version of her that was stressed and tempted couldn't rewrite them. She protected the runway from her own worst afternoon. Now stay with that idea for a second, because I want to zoom back out to Diane and Paul standing in that same building, and I want you to see what this actually bought her, because it was never really about the dollars. Picture the phone call everyone dreads. The company restructures. Both of them get the same email on the same gray Tuesday. Both are out of a job by Friday. For Paul, that email is a catastrophe. 11 days of cash, a lease he can't get out of, and a wave of pure fear that forces him to take the very first thing that comes along. Any job, any pay, any boss, because the mortgage of his lifestyle does not pause to let him breathe. Fear makes his decision for him. He grabs the first branch he can reach on the way down. For Diane, the same email is a bad week. That's it, a bad week. Because she has a full year sitting under her. She can be sad about it, she can be angry about it, and then she can be strategic about it. She can take the weekend, update her resume without her hands shaking, and actually wait for the right job instead of the first job. Her runway didn't just protect her money, it protected her judgment. It bought her the ability to make good decisions at the exact moment most people are forced into terrible ones. That is what a year of savings actually is. It is not a number on a card on a fridge. It is the ability to say no. No to the bad job, no to the toxic boss, no to the panic. People call it an emergency fund, and they make it sound grim, like insurance, like broccoli. It's not. It's the most freedom money can buy at that price. It is a wall of options between you and fear. So let me hand you the whole thing as steps you can actually start on, because I don't want this to just be a nice story about a woman named Diane. I want it in your hands by Monday morning. This week, do 2 things. Add up 1 honest month of your real expenses and multiply by 12. That's your runway number. Write it down somewhere you'll see it. Then open your statements and cancel every silent subscription you wouldn't miss. That alone probably funds your first month. This month, set up the automatic transfer. Any amount. I mean it. Any amount. Even $50 a paycheck, set for the morning after payday, into a separate account you pretend doesn't exist. The number matters far less than the machine. Start the machine. This quarter, open the boring high-yield account at a different bank, no card attached, and write your emergency rules down while you're calm. What counts, what doesn't. Sign it to yourself if you have to. And then, this is the quietly hard one, the next time your income goes up, from a raise, a side gig, a tax refund, anything, do not upgrade your life. Point it straight at the runway. Let your income rise and make your lifestyle sit still. Do that, and 1 year of savings stops being a fantasy and starts being a date on a calendar. Now, if any of this landed for you, if you felt that little click of, oh, that's actually possible for me, a like genuinely helps me know I hit the right tone, and it helps this find somebody else who needs a year of runway more than they know. And if you want more of these, the kind that treat you like an adult with a real income and a real life, the subscribe button is right there, no pressure. But honestly, the thing I'd value most is a comment. Tell me your runway number, the one you just worked out, or tell me which silent subscription you're about to cancel tonight. I read them. It tells me what to make next. Because here is where all of this actually goes, and it's bigger than money. Diane doesn't wake up at 3 in the morning doing math on the ceiling. When her car makes a noise, it's an annoyance, not a crisis. When a friend says, let's not do the big trip this year, she means it out of taste, not terror. She sleeps. Do you understand how much of your life is quietly shaped by whether or not you sleep? That is what she bought. Not things. Sleep. Calm. A quieter head. The freedom to be a decent, unhurried person because she isn't drowning. Money, at this level, was never about getting rich. It was about buying back the hours you'd otherwise spend afraid. It's the room to breathe. It's the wall of options. It's the difference between living your life and merely bracing against it. So let's go back to that kitchen table. 6:14 in the morning. The phone glows. $31,200. 1 year. And Diane, who earns $50,000 a year and was told her whole life that this was impossible on that income, sets the phone down and pours her coffee and goes about a completely ordinary morning that just happens to be built on solid ground. You can build the exact same thing. It starts with one honest number and one automatic transfer. That's the runway. But runway only gets you off the ground. What you do once you're actually in the air, how that same boring money quietly turns into wealth while you sleep, that is a whole different move. And it's honestly step 2 of this entire journey. That's the next video. I'll see you on the runway.